Hello and welcome again to the Wisdom Meditation Marathon, Silencing the Guns. There's a conflict in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, and so many are suffering, and we may feel helpless in a place of fear. And so we are here to transmute that fear into love and see how we can all together unite and create a new world, a new vision of a world. So with that, I'm so pleased now to welcome our next guide into silence. And that is Stephen Thomas, who's joining us right now. And Stephen, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm so grateful and so thankful for you being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paolo. I'd like to offer in this short session a chance to use some techniques of the breath, which can create quite a relaxation in the nervous system. And from that point, there are some ways that we can then find some movement of the breath inside of the body, which creates some clarity and brightness, but at the same time gives a little bit of ground and steadiness. And that's what I like very much about this particular form. And so I'd like to guide you through that. And then I'll give you a chance just to extend the feeling of the clarity that comes from that type of technique outwards. And so I'll just ask you to find a comfortable position. Can be sitting on a cushion or in a chair. The spine would usually be upright in this kind of technique, vertical, so that there is a vertical line between the crown, the heart, the navel, and the base. And we just begin to first catch the feeling of relaxing. And this is in many ways the way we enter most breath work, is to begin by relaxing, and we can soften by relaxing this space in the top of the mouth, we call the upper palate. We can do that by just creating a very gentle, soft, hidden smile. Some people like to just let the tongue rest for a moment into the top of the mouth. And this has a way of also turning the attention inwards, and we can feel the navel area, the base of the body. And as we notice that feeling of the flow of awareness inwards, we can do a second thing, which is just to simply give the breath a little bit of sound. It comes by just gently putting the awareness between the two collarbones at the base of the throat. And the breath starts to just become a bit in our control, gently in our control. And the breath has a bit of sound, like the wind moving through trees or the water coming up on the beach. There's no strain in the neck, and the belly is soft. And what we're really doing here is just activating the parasympathetic nervous system by giving a little warm sound to the breath and having the attention inwards. The soft release of the upper palate, the hidden smile. And the third thing we can do with the breath, which helps to create a sense of ease and calmness, is to make the exhale breath just a little bit longer than the inhale. So we give it a bit of sound and we let the exhale extend out a tiny bit longer. And we breathe like this for a minute. Just gentle, warm breath, slightly extended on the exhale. And awareness inside the body. Can also help to imagine the body as a shell, and inside is a lot of space and openness, and the breath just moves through that inner space of the shell. Keep for now this warm sound, the slightly longer exhale, and the gentle, very subtle hidden smile, or we can say the release of the top of the mouth. And you really can either leave the tongue passive, or some people will find it quite nice to just gently let the tongue rest towards the top of the mouth. This can help to stabilize the experience, to keep the awareness inwards, to give a feeling of centeredness or the midline of the body. And then the main technique that I would like to introduce once we have that rhythm of the breath is very simple, and it is just to imagine a space just above the crown of the head. And when we inhale, we imagine the inhale breath coming down through the middle of the body and pausing at the navel. And the pause is just for a second or two, no stress. And then the exhale goes back up through the middle of the body and right out the crown of the head, and just stops a few fingertips above the crown of the head. And we inhale down through the middle of the body to the navel. We pause for 1 or 2 seconds, and we slowly exhale back up the spine through the crown and pause just above the crown. Let's try that now, just a few rounds like that, to feel that movement of the breath and the 2 spaces where the breath pauses, the navel and just above the crown. Try to notice there's a certain feeling when you pause at the navel, and there's a different feeling when you pause just above the crown. And you can just notice those two spaces and the breath that moves between them. Keep that soft, warm sound to the breath. And then we can deepen the experience by adding this sound internally with the breath. So when we're inhaling now, we can hear the sound Om. And when we pause at the navel, we would hear the sound Ah. And when we exhale back up through the middle of the body, above the crown, we hear the sound Hung. And when we pause at the end of Hung, it's just a space of silence just above the crown. So this beautiful technique is inhaling Om down to the navel, Ah, Hung, and then silence. So let's try that now. Om on the inhale, Ah, just for a second at the navel, Hung up through the spine, through the crown, silence. Move back and forth like this with me for a couple of minutes. And you can notice both the active movement of the breath, which creates clarity and stability, and the pause, the open space, which creates wisdom, cultivates the qualities of openness and love, insight. Breath itself creating the stability with the Om and the Hung, and those two empty spaces at the navel above the crown, creating spaciousness and insight. Om Ahang. as you continue that technique, you can start to notice a little bit longer spaces of pausing, just to feel that moment at the navel, to feel that moment at the end of the sound hung just above the crown, and to enjoy those two empty silent spaces. And I would recommend that you just continue, if you enjoy that, to move the Om Ahang with the breath, and from time to time to pause and just feel a sense of clarity, brightness, and with that clarity and brightness, then to extend a prayer of loving kindness outwards. To see how that clarity, insight allows us to connect, feel the sense of interdependence and connection. Just staying with me now in silence and enjoying this flow of the breath, and using that to somehow reach these threads of connection to others. can at any time just come back to that anchor of the center line of the body, the Om descending, the quality of wisdom from above down to the navel, resting with that strength at the navel, Ah, and then letting the breath move through the spine, back up through the crown, and just experiencing the stillness above the crown, hung on the exhale. And this can be a beautiful centering experience which creates clarity and stability. It's through that kind of work that a softness emerges over time, and there's a space between different ideas, space between things starts to emerge. And this gives us some wisdom that we can connect back out into the world with. And so I'd like to offer that you just can extend that work for more time here. You can sit, and that you also can see behind that work is the intention of helping to ease conflict and helping to create a sense of wisdom and insight across humanity, and that begins from within. May the merit of any of these practices be always for the benefit of all beings. May our thoughts and actions contribute to that well-being, which is also always found very close to suffering. This noble truth that just behind the suffering is well-being. It can be found.